Okay, first we're going to talk about power and monitors. Those are both really easy things. In fact, you're going to think, why did I even watch this video? But it's really a good thing to know because sometimes things don't work and the main problem is it's not plugged in. Now there's a lot of different plugs on a computer, not just a big plug, but you got all the connections throughout. So to start with, if there's no electricity on your computer and it's not booting up, first question to ask is, are there any other lights on in the house? I know that's a weird thing to say, but we've had people who called us and said, hey, all the electricity is out at my house. In fact, the whole neighborhood's out. Should I still have your technician come over to help me fix my computer? Well, the answer would be no, because all computers and monitors work on electricity. So if the power doesn't work in your neighborhood, there's no reason to come to your house. Now, another thing that we've seen with a lot of people are these power strips. You know, these things sit on your desk or your floor usually and have these different plugs on it that you plug in things. So it just takes one outlet and duplicates it into many outlets. I worked with a lady about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and what she did is she typed this paper. Okay, after she finished like her 10-page document, she goes, oh, so glad I'm done. Sits back and hits this little button on the power strip. This little thing turns off the power, which turned off the computer, and she lost her documents. So she calls me back and she says, hey, is there any way to get my documents back? And this was actually 1983, so they didn't have automatic backup or anything like that back in then. So I said, no, there's no way. So she types her whole paper again, types the whole 10-page document, does the exact same thing. Oh, I'm so glad I'm done with this document. Leans back, touches that button again, okay? Calls me back again and said, what is there that I need to do that keeps this from happening? The thing is, don't touch that button. You need to move this off the floor. A lot of people keep it way underneath their desk where things are more apt for you to put your foot against it. So take this off the floor. Here in the office, I'm so paranoid about this, we've actually super glued all the buttons in the on position. There's no reason why this button should ever go off. So we took super glue and there's actually no way to turn these power buttons off. But let's say you've checked that. Lights are on, power strip's on. A lot of these have a light on it, if you can see that light right there. Make sure it's plugged in and make sure all your cables are connected, right? That is connected, that is not connected. Now the same thing, these can come off of the back of a computer. So this is your normal power cord. They usually go into monitors and computers. But let's talk about monitors for a second. I had a lady once who said her monitor keeps going off every time she goes like this. She goes, when I go like this, my monitor turns on. When I go like this, the monitor turns off. The reason is the plug was coming out. So on the back of these monitors, this one's way underneath on this side. This thing was really tight in this back section. Okay, this was really tight in there, and every time she moved her monitor about 2 millimeters, this cable would come off just enough for the power to go out. Okay, so even though you think it's in there, make sure it's pushed in all the way. One time a lady came to me and said, hey, I can't get my monitor to work and I just can't figure it out. And so I took her through some basic troubleshooting and then I said, hey, do you have a housekeeper? She goes, I do have a housekeeper. And she said, I said, was she here yesterday? She goes, she was here yesterday. How did you know this? I said, this is what happened. She probably cleaned behind your monitor. Oh, she always does a good job cleaning my desk. And so the housekeeper goes like this, okay? Cleans the desk and stuff like that. And in doing that, she probably messed up one of the cables, okay, and had it unplugged. So I just had to turn around there, reach up there, push it back in better, and everything was fine. Now we've had a lot of problems with, I'll say a lot of problems. We've had some people who are just confused about the way a monitor works, okay? To start with, this is a monitor. This is not a modem or a computer. This has nothing to do with the power or the brains of the computer. This is just a display that shows you what your computer's doing. So I had somebody say, hey, your technician just left my house and he didn't tell me how to turn my monitor off. So there's a little thing like this going across the screen and there's a little amber light over there. It's an orange light and that light over there just bugs me. I just don't want that light on there. So I said, well, you just gotta turn it off. I said, you really could leave it on. It's using like less than a watt of electricity. You just leave it on, it comes up faster. Oh no, I want to turn that off. How do I turn it off? So I told her, put her finger towards the light. So the light that was amber, she just kept finding it until pushed it and finally turned off the monitor. right? So we thought everything was fine. The next morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, she calls and says, hey, you never told me how to turn the monitor back on. I says, well, it's the same button. The on button and the off button are the same button. She goes, the same button? I said, yeah, the same button, on and off button. So she goes, well, which button is it? I says, well, it's whatever button you pushed yesterday. And she says, well, I don't remember which button it was. I says, well, I don't remember either. I was on the phone. So I said, feel the entire monitor. Start at the top, go around the sides until you feel something. And when you feel it, you push it. So like on monitors, there are several buttons, and none of them will actually do anything when it's off, except for the on button. And when the on button comes on, then the screen will come on. So she was happy after several times. But just remember that. Now, some monitors don't have a physical button. This was only kind of a fad that happened for about a year. It was a heat touch of this rim. Okay, so you actually just touch the black part of your screen, and that was how you turned on the monitor. And that kind of went out of style because they realized nobody could figure that out. Nobody could find the on button. So you want to make sure you know where it is. You know, it's a pretty simple button there. And some of the other buttons have to do with a different input. So let's turn over the back of the computer like this. When you plug it in, there's different jacks on the bottom underneath here. Let me get you another monitor so you can see. Like this is the bottom of this monitor. See, there's different jacks, and one of them is the power, that goes to electricity, and then these two, one of them goes to your computer. Both of them do not go to your computer. You only need one cable to go from here to your computer. It is possible to plug in two cables and plug them both in your computer at the same time, and it will really mess things up. Your computer doesn't know which monitor because you only have one monitor. So don't plug in both. Now the blue one is more typical. This has been around for at least 25 to 30 years. It's called a VGA, stands for Very Good Adapter. I don't know what it stands for. And the other one stands for DVI. I don't know what that stands for either, but they're different colors. So you want to find the cable that you have. The DVI is slightly better than the VGA. I don't think it really matters that much. If you're a novice computer user, the difference in quality for a normal person just doing the internet and checking emails and things like that, it doesn't really matter which one. So the blue one and the white one. So you always want to check. Most of these VGA cables, it's kind of like a trapezoid, goes into the VGA port like that. And then you find the end of the cable and you find it on the back of your computer. So this computer here has both jacks. So we're going to take this one and put it into the jack like that. These have these things called thumb screws, okay? You just move it with your thumb. Kind of ingenious. I don't know why they're only on certain things in life, but they're only on the computer monitors, thumb screws like that. So you're going to put it in there and you could just tighten it. That makes sure it's safe so it doesn't come pulled out like I talked about earlier. So you could do that, or you could use the white cable, goes into the white jack over here, and the white jack on your monitor over here. Okay, but remember, don't do both, just one or the other. There are other adapters as well. Let me just pick on another computer. So this one right here, you notice this one has a blue jack. Okay, so I could plug that in there, but it doesn't have a white jack. So if you only have this cable and you have this kind of monitor, there's no place to plug this in. This one has some of the newer ones that have come out. It's called HDMI, high density, and that's another adapter that they have, and another one called DisplayPort adapter. But like I said before, if you're just a normal computer user, it doesn't really matter which of these that you use in the back of your computer. Now, let me show you one thing that you do not do with monitors. These are called thumb screws. That means you go clockwise to go in and counterclockwise to come out. Righty, innie, and lefty, outie, or whatever the phrase is. So as you turn this, it's tightening it, okay? Many people do not remember that when they're trying to get this cable out. We have probably 1% of our clients, when they bring in their computer, they said, I couldn't get that cable out. I just kept pulling and pulling until I yanked it right out. Well, guess what? It does yank out, and it rips off part of your computer right here. It'll rip out these threads, and you may or may not need to buy a new monitor. If you do rip it out of your computer, which happens more often than you would think, it damages this, which damages the motherboard, which means you have to buy a new motherboard or an entire computer. So that's an important thing to remember. Thumb and index screws for your monitor. So that's all we got here. If you want to choose one of these other videos, you can do that at this time.